Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. It's me, DIGI Driver. Just wanted to do a little run in scenery development this evening. Won't be on for too long, but wanted to take you guys back down to the ground at Lafayette Regional in Louisiana, which is a new project I recently undertook on FlightSim.to, but because I'm not a member of the creator program there, I can't take the deposit that was set aside for it. I can take the karma points that they give, but I kind of decided I wanted to make it anyway. Also because I've flown into Lafayette a few times, and with the second arrival at Lafayette and hanging out with a friend on stream, aka Scotty Tahati, I decided to actually remake the airport, especially since it's been requested on FlightSim.to and no one's built it. I don't know when the request was placed, but I think the request is at least a month old, and people that want to actually fly into an updated version of the airport is probably even older, or they've been waiting longer than that. So, that's where we stand. But also, I was out with Mrs. Digi today, and Mrs. Digi had an outpatient procedure done, and she's home resting, and I think she's going to be on the mend. And soon there's going to be one more thing that she's going to be doing, which hopefully gets her back on the path to even better health. King Cobra, my friend, welcome aboard. Very happy to have you. Happy that you're with me right now. And Sticky Rice, the head of DIGI Construction, I might add, a fellow partner. So, folks, very happy to have you aboard. Welcome to the both of you. We're going to go to Lafayette, and we are going to check out the landscape, so to speak. Let me close some windows. Captain. And some more windows. I think we're good on volume controls. We can control it from the main panel. But let's go ahead. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and jump into Lafayette Regional. Actually, kind of interesting story. Lafayette Regional was actually the airport I went to on one of my very last flight sim streams before I decided to semi-retire for a little while. And from here, I think I took like a 2 to 3 week break before I realized I didn't want to give up streaming totally. But I also decided to start getting back into scenery development. Also, I just realized I didn't turn on my map mod, so I'm going to have to exit Flight Sim to come back in. So, oops, rookie move. But at the same time, it's okay, because I want to do this. Oh, the chicken. Yes. The funny thing about cooking streams is that one of my friends, Nathan's Plains, suggested it, and it seemed like such a kind of like innocent and fun idea at first. But now, the more I think about it, the cooking streams have given me this desire to grow and to cook even more, and I've gotten a whole bunch of ideas since about things for cooking streams, like how to create, the best flight sim snacks you can make with the things you have around the house, how you can, plan for snack attacks, or create create flight sim MREs, or do something like make meals that you can reheat or stick in the equivalent of a hot box on a plane, so that you could actually emulate the experience. I'm starting to get these crazy ideas for cooking streams, and I'm liking where this is going. And you would have thought, like, I would never have thought about stuff like this, which is funny. It's making me smile right now, but I would have never thought, like, oh, make a cooking stream where you think of things that you can make for flight simming. Like, Those two ideas seemed utterly, utterly incompatible. I think the mathematical term is incongruent, but whatever. That's funny. That is actually quite funny. But I do think there are going to be more cooking streams in the future. I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going to be talking about that with friends at Expo in Providence next year. Yahweh permitting, actually get a chance to go up there. And that's the thing, Sticky Rice. I was afraid for a while that I had lost it. I was afraid that I had lost my motivation for things like scenery development, or doing things like cooking or programming IRL. And I think I've just come around. I just kind of come around the past few days, the past week, and I just realized, like, it's still there. It's just that I've allowed myself to be, I don't know, a bit of a knucklehead when I can be doing better. Okay, so now we have latest Bing imagery in Lafayette, and I'm gonna park up in the usual spot. I don't care what time it is, and I'm gonna leave all players and live traffic on. And then when we go into developer mode, this will cut over to daytime. And if anything, I just need to make sure that my live weather is turned off. Ebb and flow. Yeah, absolutely, King Cobra. It's a privilege to hang out with you guys. Actually, I did something really cool today. I was watching some old TV shows with friends online on Twitch. I think there's this Twitch channel called Section 31 where they watch old sci-fi shows like Star Trek and Babylon 5. And I'm a big Babylon 5 fan. So I found out they were actually, going through the cycle, I guess, now or this week or whatever. And I watched a couple of episodes. And it's so cool that you can actually watch episodes with people. Alright, let's see. Let me increase the ambient sounds because I'm not gonna have any music playing, but I do want you guys to get ambient sounds and whatnot. So let's turn the time back on to daytime. Oh, excuse me. All I have to do is this. Select the scenery BGL, click load, and blammo. Now it is kind of low clouds, so we're going to take live weather away. And now we have perfectly clear skies, and we can do what we need to do. Okay, so you don't have much room here because I'm not in like 1440p mode, but I like the smoothness of 1080p right now, and I'll take the drop in resolution to do it. This is Lafayette Regional Airport, a long ways away from New Orleans, but I am working this project for FlightSim.tl, not because they hired me, but because I wanted to do it for people that have been requesting it. And last night, or the night before, I started working on runway 4 right and 22 left. So I added a few things to this runway, but I'm probably going to be adding some aprons and custom texturing this because I want to make sure that all of the features, kind of sort of this airport of this runway bleed through. You got your first Arduino starter kit? That's so cool. Congratulations. Don't be surprised if you go mad scientist and decide you want to like Arduino all the things. It's natural, especially if you score some quick wins with your projects. But feel free to keep me informed, my friend. I have some projects that I think I've been meaning to do, which I might try to take on tomorrow. And I think that's just it. I'm gonna give myself permission to breathe and to pursue things and to just get frustrated and step away and come back and do something different. Like my mom was right. Stuff like, you know, clean your room. I think about that now. It's like, you purposely take a break from something that you've been doing for a while, and you come back and you've got this kind of like either renewed vigor or an enhanced appreciation because you either find something you didn't know you lost, or you discover something you never knew. And that's kind of where I am right now. I'm just really grateful for what I have, and I don't want to waste it. Now, it's very hard to see, but the markings that I added to this runway, which is transparent by the way, are almost perfectly aligned with the satellite imagery. Now, I did have to spend some time hand aligning this runway because, like I learned from Sticky Rice, you can actually finagle the runway yourself. Well, I tell you what, Sticky Rice, there is some truth to what you say, because when you're able to make your way around your room, when you're able to find what you're looking for, when you're able to not have to worry about where you put stuff, that's less energy you have to spend worrying about the room. So I hear you. I hear you. Now we've got I think these are threshold markers, but I did not include touchdown markers. You'll see why. So I'm looking at the runway the runway properties right now, and I've got the heading and the length and the width configured pretty much about as good as they're going to get right now. Pattern altitude, I think this is 1,500 feet standard. I don't know. And we've got the, runway numbers and whatnot. But watch what happens when I add fixed distance markings. Those fixed distance markings are good. Oh, let's see. The fixed distance markings seem to be fixed. That's good. Now, what about the touchdown markings? Ooh, well, that's interesting. I was having difficulty with this the last time I was messing with this runway. I might not need to spend that much time messing around with the markings. There are some markings which still aren't showing up, but I find that very peculiar. That's good. Those painted lines slightly yellow? I don't know. I don't know. I think what you might need to do is you might have to make the runway totally transparent with very few markings and then manually create them. But I don't know that for a fact. And I would hope that you wouldn't have to create all the markings by hand and all the polygons for like the numbers and whatnot yourself. Because I thought you were able to custom color them. I don't know. I don't know. If I run into that problem, then we'll have a common enemy. So we'll see. So it looks like I didn't need to paint the fixed distance markings. And I didn't need to paint the touchdown markings. At least I don't think I did. No. So, precision markings were the last ones. Let's see. Look at that. These were behaving differently the last time because I think I was maneuvering the runway too much, which resulted in those markings being out of whack. Now, the problem is that the centerline markings are different than what the satellite imagery actually shows. So I'm not going to worry about that, but I am going to let the satellite imagery influence the materials that I'm going to be using for the runway. Enemy is my friend. So, all right. I would say this is pretty close to what we have for satellite imagery. This is probably going to be a as good as it gets scenario. Terraforming, I'm not worried about that right now. Lights, I've already got set up. We've got medium center lighting, and high edge lighting. The reason why I went with high edge lighting is because that's what the skyvector.com site said existed for this runway. Now let me go ahead and pull it up again just so I have it. But give me a moment. And pardon me, I'm going to pull this up. Okay, this is Paul Fournier Field Airport, and the runway has high intensity edge lighting. So, yeah, there you go. It doesn't say anything about center lighting though, so we'll do what we can. Oh, right, of course, I was going through the lights. Yeah, so I did medium center lighting and high edge lighting, but I don't know if it would make any sense for me to have high edge lighting and not high center lighting. We'll play around with that. Pavements, we have a primary threshold at the other end of the runway, which we've covered as best we can. And I'm going to do the blast pads by hand because of the difference in materials and probably the objects that we're going to be using for the blast pad itself. I don't know what this is, whether it's edge lighting or not, because the lighting was supposed to have been taken care of by me paying attention to the configuration, but I'm not sure if it actually did happen. So, oh right, approach lights. The secondary runway here is 4 right. So we do have REILs, but nothing popped up for here. So I suspect that's not what these are. But the runway edge, I'm guessing these are the runway edge indicator lights. These guys right here. I'm looking at top down, so you can't see them too well. But I'm pretty sure if I remove this, they go away. So yeah. I forget what purpose these guys have, but apparently they serve some purpose. So, we'll see. Alright, so we've got that, and just confirming, that's right, REIL, yes. Now, does that mean that REILs exist on both runway sides? No. That wouldn't make sense, would it? That's interesting. Runway 4 right has a right traffic pattern? That's weird. Okay, let me change that then. And where's the traffic pattern? Traffic pattern, probably configuration. 4 right, traffic pattern right. So why would the non-primary runway have a right traffic pattern and the primary runway have a left traffic pattern? I don't know. I'm probably going to make a mistake here, but I'm going to make both patterns right patterns. But wait, that would make no sense, would it? Okay, also, not something I'm going to worry about right now. We will get that in post. But right now, I want to finish texturing the airport, the runway, and see what I can do for it real fast. So, welcome aboard. If you folks are coming in and you're not sure what's going on, my name is DIGI Driver. I am a flight simulator enthusiast. I used to do a lot of flight sim streams, and I spent time flying from place to place in sims like FSX, X-Plane, and Microsoft Flight Simulator, or FS 2020. And now...
Final approach checklist complete.
Sticky Rice, thank you for the gift sub to King Cobra. Really appreciate the support, friend. Thank you so much. I'm just getting some links going here in case you're curious and you want to follow me on flightsim.to. There's the link to my profile. I am trying to put up comments and progress for Lafayette Airport because this is it's becoming a more visible project, and I don't want to let you guys down. So, like I said, tonight's going to be a bit of a quick session, maybe not too long, but probably not going to be, 2.5, 3 hours. It's probably going to be closer to an hour, hour and a half. And since I am about 21 minutes in, I better get moving. But again, Sticky Rice, thank you so much for the support. Excuse me? Wow. Sticky Rice, thanks for the 5 gift subs.
Final approach checklist complete.
To Cargo Fire, Wrong Stuff, JDF Doggo, King JG 66699, and Mongo 7. And this is for the purchase of protein chicken.
Checklist complete.
I tell you what, Sticky Rice, I feel like my taste in cooking is rapidly becoming more curiously
Final approach checklist complete.
And apologies for like the dual warnings, because I have my current stream platform running, but the tones.
Final approach checklist complete.
Not the audio playback, but the tones are from a different streaming platform because the overlays come from there. So you'll get crossover and alerts, unfortunately. But yeah, probably more talk about cooking in the future. But right now, let's go ahead and do some apron things. Now, when I do scenery development, I like to keep my objects separated into folders. This helps me to separate things way more readily. So, this helps me to be able to turn on or turn off certain sections of the airport. So let's do this. Let's add an apron, my first, and this is going to be strictly for the runway. So I'm probably going to be creating a series of aprons, and some of them are going to overlap, some of them aren't. To make this very simple, I'm probably going to make very basic or non-complex shapes and then override certain portions by adding certain apron pieces on top of each other. We'll start with the main apron for the runway, and this is going to include both sides of the runway, and this is how we'll do it. We'll start here, and then we'll essentially cover the distance, and then we will drape apron pieces on top. And as we create apron pieces successfully, we'll hide them and turn them on and off as necessary in order for us to be able to see what we're doing. So let me go ahead and pop that piece right there, and then we're going to move this piece over here. And again, this is just a very simple, very straightforward initial placement, which we are going to use to mark out the textures. And what I'm hoping to achieve is essentially just a patchwork quilt of apron textures, which are going to work towards us making a believably complex runway using the default materials. Now, if I was making a payware version of KLFT, I would probably endeavor to get either commercially licensable satellite imagery of the airport or some other way where I actually literally take pictures of the actual runway surface and make it more seamless or more believable. But I want to try to do this in such a way that it benefits you guys and it benefits me. Now, if any of you have followed me for a while, you know that I generally don't make appeals, or I don't say anything to the extent of, oh, help me, I want to really become like this and that, but like I need money. I really like to avoid doing stuff like that at all costs whenever possible. But I'm not gonna lie to you. The past few months have been a bit, and you'll pardon the phrase, sticky rice. Sticky. I've been trying to figure out how to make ends meet, and by the grace of God, a lot of times we have been able to do exactly that. Does that mean that things are ideal and perfect right now? No, they're not. I'm also trying to see about raising, I guess you could call it seed money. So that's why I think I'm beginning to push myself back into scenery development a little bit each day. And also just, I don't know, enjoy the concept or the aspect of scenery development again like I used to. And mostly I think that's because I want to rekindle the spark that I had for it. Of course, you say stuff like that, and it's incredibly difficult to kind of like make that stick unless that's exactly what you intend to do. And I feel like the less you actually talk about it and the more you start doing it, the easier it gets. Does that mean it's easy? No. Does does that mean you always feel like clicking a whole bunch of polygons into place? No. But I do feel like I'm beginning to find my my enjoyment for this again. And I think part of the reason why was because I feel like I got stuck, especially at the beginning of the year. I just really just got out there. I got so busy with work that I just kind of shut down. Treat the polygons as olive oil first. You put it in before the meat. There we go. There we go. Now we're seasoning our airports with love. You know, you cook with love. Why don't we build with love? Why not? And the results will be evident. I will be honest. I will be very honest. I, I'm not necessarily worried about whether or not this ever becomes a business at all. Um, would it be cool if it did? Sure. Would it be cooler for me to, you know, enjoy my ability to work on a regular basis and then come to this and chill and make great airports for people? I feel a bit like that's actually more important than anything, and I feel like that's actually going to win out in the end. So if I turn out launching a business because of this, great. If I don't, and I just find that this is just really enjoyable, and I get to do this for fun while I, do other stuff to take care of my family, guess what? I still win. It's just a different path. I'm not forcing it anymore. I'm just not freaking out about it. I can't. And I know, I mean, I was freaking out earlier this year. I wasn't going absolutely bananas postal, but I think Miss Digi can definitely tell you that I was struggling trying to get my stuff figured out and trying to figure out how to actually um, do a good job IRL and also try to keep going. And to be completely honest with you, it's okay not to be okay. I learned that this year finally, and I'm grateful that I have, like I said, a wonderful support system in place. So yeah, 12-hour shifts are definitely demanding. Yeah, exactly. Like I can strike out as many times as I want to, as long as I come to the realization that one day, if I hit it out of the park once, that's all it takes. That'll be all it takes for me to actually be successful and achieve what it is that I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm not going to be going for an absolute perfect layout of textures or aprons or whatnot. We're going to be going for the general idea. So we're going to be breaking this out into a few textures. Speaking of which, let's go to the asphalt textures and start picking what we want. So if I drag it into surface, then I should be able to, there we go, draw the surface. And I want to find, I think I want to use generic 3 because that's probably going to be as close as it's going to get. I could also try using generic 3 cracked and see if that works. Okay, now generic 3 cracked might be a good place to start. Let's see, was that a Sobo? Let's try this one instead. I feel like that one's not that bad. Actually, that one's pretty good. Let me see. But is the actual runway a whole bunch of cracked textures? I wonder. Yeah, honestly, I feel like that gives it a lot of character. So, we're going to draw the texture. This isn't going to be the only one. This is just the base layer. And what we can do is mess with opacity to see how it blends in. So, right away, you can see the color depth is actually pretty close to what you have. What we can do is we can also color it ourselves and match the actual shading. So I'm going to keep messing with opacity to see how close I get. We're going to change the opacity of the coloration, and we're gonna first kind of mess with it this way. So let's see. That's actually pretty good. Now, because I don't want to necessarily try to capture the entire runway on the first pass, it's pretty good, but the edges of the runway are still darker. So we're going to remove coloration, and I'm pretty sure we're going to stick with that because we're going to want the edge color to be darker. So let's check the opacity. Okay, great. That's good enough for right now. We can always come back and kind of play around with it a little bit later, or we can just make it a teensy bit transparent. Remember, we're going to be messing with the coloration on various levels. So this is kind of like a step 1. I'm also going to not make it totally transparent, but it's not going to be totally opaque either. So we'll leave it at like a 180 something. And then we're going to add the other layers. So there we go. We've got a base layer going for the runway. And you can also tell the work that we've put into it. Also, it is nice to see that this actually has distance markers in place. And we still have some runway bleed through. But we're going to want to get rid of some of that because we will want to make sure that the runway markings are not misleading unless this runway is about to get resurfaced, which is always a possibility. Also, with a little bit of transparency, you can see the other sections that you're going to be working on. But this almost looks cool as is because you don't have to spend as much time working on different textures. Now, if we hide the surface, we can see that there's a different kind of surface here. So we might want to draw a different surface, but there's something weirdly fascinating about this that I like, that you can actually see the additional surface area without really going too bananas with this. But because I want to do a really good job, I'm actually going to add additional different areas of surface area. I'm not going to go absolutely bananas crazy, but we are going to add different aprons to this just to make it easier for us to do what we need to do. So first thing, we're going to take our apron that we actually created and we're going to give it a name. So we're going to say 2 left, 4 right, basic apron. Let's see. We'll say apron layer 1. And then we're going to actually take this into a folder. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to move it we're going to move it to the root folder. Actually, I did this wrong. Hold on. And I'm going to move this into the default. Okay, great. So I want to get rid of this because I don't want this. I'm going to move this up to the root level. Oh, okay. So aprons have to stay on the actual airport section. That's fine. That is fine. We are going to take the apron and we're going to create a new folder for aprons because it's nice to keep this in mind. And because we're going to be dealing with a lot of runway aprons, we're going to create a subgroup called runway aprons. We'll just call it runway for now. Runways can actually... Ooh. Okay. Don't think about it too hard, Digi. Keep going. Alright. So now we have runway aprons, and now we have the base layer. So now we're going to create a new runway apron layer, and we're going to call it apron layer 2. Not original in any sense of the word, but we're going to do it. And I'm going to make the apron layer start pretty much in the middle of the dividing line between the threshold and the main runway surface. And then we're going to do this. It's going to be right outside, just on the edge of that that edge line, excuse me. And this is going to be, what am I going to call this? I think we're going to call this threshold. So 2 left, 4 right, primary threshold. And we're going to give this a higher priority than the main one. The main apron is priority 0, and we're going to make this priority 1 because this has to appear above the apron. Now, if we hide the surface, then we're going to go for I think a lighter crack layer, at least for right now, before we decide to make it a better one. So we're going to also make this generic 3, draw the surface, but now we're going to go for a much lighter color. And in coloration, we're going to say it's probably going to be like maybe mostly white. That might actually work. And if we draw both layers, then now we see that not only is this portion drawn, this portion is also drawn as well. So when you show them and you hide them, you can more easily see what's going on. Now, I kind of like this, but I kind of don't at the same time. This isn't concrete. This is like extremely, I don't know what, asphalt. And it could probably be even brighter than what it is. I just don't want to go bananas with the coloring. Okay. Now there's a problem with this. For some reason it's just not coming through that it's meant to be like that. I could take the easy way out, just make it transparent, but I want to be careful. What I think I am going to do is I'm going to take ground merging out. That'll help me a little bit. And then draw and hide the surface. Okay, so this particular material is a little too uniform. I need to find something different. That's actually a little bit better. It seems like many of those are pretty similar. But I want to be careful. These are all asphalt. And this is asphalt black, but right now it's colored. Black is pretty much like kaboom. But no, I'm pretty sure they didn't use concrete, excuse me. Asphalt 10, generic 2. No, I think we're going to stick with generic 3, but I think we're going to make it darker. And what I might do is actually make this fall off a meter on each side. Wait, does it fall off within that? Ooh, interesting. And can I do that in negative terms? No, I can't. I can't make it fall off on itself. So that's interesting. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. That might actually work a teensy bit. But what I'm probably going to have to do is bring those textures in a bit. And this is the main layer. And now this is the prior threshold. So let's do this. Now we're going to take a little bit of a guide from the satellite imagery, and we're going to bring the fallout in, almost like the paint lines themselves kind of caused a chemical reaction in the asphalt because maybe the painting equipment kind of like was so heavy that it kind of ground out the concrete, not the concrete, the asphalt on the edges. I kind of don't know what I'm saying, but I kind of do. It's like there's something that's happening with the ground texturing. So now we've kind of got this extra kind of thing going on here. And we can also, in theory, increase the textured tiling so that the cracks aren't that big, but they're not that small either. I mean, we can make them huge, but that wouldn't be nice. Let's tile them down to like 20. And now you've got some difference, but it's not that bad. And I'll probably replace that at some point. How to install a custom texture? Tonight, maybe not. Maybe tomorrow, if I create a 3D object, which I'm going to put in the airport. But regardless to say, I am going to be sticking custom objects for this airport because I don't think I'll be able to find default hangars that have certain logos on them, like Signature Aviation, and I think a few other local companies that have hangars here. So stay tuned. Okay, now let me actually make this fully opaque, or mostly opaque. And now, actually, I kind of like this because this runway feels very lived in. Let me adjust the tiling. And let me make it look like this asphalt's way more maintained than that asphalt is. This one seems a little bit off now, but we're going to go ahead and adjust it a little bit more. I want there to be some difference, but not a lot. And that's good. That's good. Now we have two different texture groups. I almost wish that that one wasn't so obviously different, but we'll do what we can. We're still learning, right? A square apron, and you want to add a custom texture on the ground. I think there's a way to make that happen really easily. And I think what you need to do is I think you need to do this. Let's find out. I'll save my progress here. And we can hide these for now. There should be something in objects called projected mesh. And then you should be able to, for example, find it in FS base. And let's just say, for example, you wanted to put an air sweeper texture down. One-click placing lets you preview something. So if you do one-click placing, then theoretically, you should be able to find something very simple. You should be able to. I saved my work if the sim crashes, so don't feel bad. I don't know why I can't see what I'm trying to place though, so I'm not sure if it's because an option isn't selected or not. I should be seeing it normally. I'm wondering if it has anything to do with my camera view. So I'm going to switch back to developer mode. Oh, excuse me. Developer camera. And we're going to go back over there and see if we can actually preview it this time. Projected mesh should let you put whatever texture you want down. Just don't know why I'm not seeing it right now. Let's see. A stack of wood. Is it because I can't see the texture that I'm trying to put down for some strange reason? I don't know. I don't know. Let's just put it down here. Let's just say add. Boink. Okay, add. And okay, it's in the ground right now. I don't know why. Ground merging. Projected mesh layer 0. I haven't messed around with this very much, so I'm learning as much as you are. But the thing about projected meshes is that essentially they are they're glued to the ground. So I don't know. We'll be able to see the stack of wood now, right? Let's see. I might need to move it off this layer. Okay, I might also have to change what I'm actually working with. So let's get rid of the projected mesh. Let's do a stack of red and white. No, I guess you can't see it that easily, but let me do traffic truck utility as a projected mesh. Okay, so now we have the projected mesh. And apparently there are a couple of these. I'm not sure why I can't see them. That's a little weird. Something about this must be different than I've actually dealt with before, so I'm going to have to do some more homework on why I can't see projected mesh. Oh, there we go. See? Okay, so I guess what has to happen is you need to create an object that you want to create a projected mesh out of. And essentially, I guess what Microsoft does is that it flattens the projected mesh down into a texture you can literally stick on the ground. And the whole business about this is that this is a part of the landscape. It moves with the ground. You are not going to put this in such a way that you'll be able to get under the projected mesh. You literally cannot go under it. It's not going to happen. I think you can either create projected mesh objects, or you can create objects which are dealt with as projected meshes. But I don't know if you'll be able to just take PNG files and then just stick them in your project and have the system automatically pick up on them. So I think what has to happen is you either need to create the objects themselves and then turn them into projected meshes, or somehow create a projected mesh object which will automatically wind up here. And I think option 2 is the way to go. You'll probably have to mess around with Blender a little bit, but like I said, the thing about Blender and you creating textures for the ground, it shouldn't be that extensive a job. Is it going to be tricky if it's your first time working with Blender? Yes. So I might actually work with that in the near future to show you how to do it. Or if there's a way to bypass Blender, period, and just use a PNG file as a projected mesh, I might just do that. So stay tuned. Meanwhile, we have the primary threshold and the main runway surface textures in place. And let me take a look at the runway again. Right. What I want to do is I want to actually create a runway layer which is going to be a slightly more faded version of the runway texture we have. And I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, I'm doing it for depth. Two, I'm doing it to really bring out the details that you see when you touch down at like a Payware airport. And it's kind of the difference between going with one layer and going with multiple layers, or landing at a default airport, landing at a Payware airport. I'm guessing a lot of Payware airports use satellite imagery, and I haven't gotten to exactly how to license that yet, but I would imagine that most have either some kind of situation or relationship with someone that lets them do that, or they just figure out how to make their runways look that good. It could just be that they actually make their runways look that good, and they don't license satellite imagery from anybody. They just figure it out. Or if they do license their imagery, it's because they have the money or they have the license to do so. But enough blabbing, Digi. Work. Alright, so this is going to be the runway layer, which I'm going to stick on this runway. That's why it's called a runway layer. Dad jokes inbound. Now, cheat a bit. Use that thick layer to mask the fact that we're not tying it perfectly into the other apron, and that's okay. You don't have to. At least you shouldn't have to. And because this should be a perfectly rectangular shape, we can call it right here. That's okay. You okay, Mrs. Digi? Okay, good. Okay. You're gonna take it. Okay, good, good. All right. If you guys hear me talking to Mrs. Digi, she's, just managing pain post-op, so she's not feeling the best right now. If I have to, I'll definitely go and take care of her. She's probably gonna make sure she's well medicated and she's gonna go to sleep. So let me see. Taxi concrete. We don't want this. I'm probably gonna use the same asphalt. This was probably not gonna be cracked. This is probably gonna be generic. So this might actually work really well. I will probably have to mess with the coloration because it's going to be different. And I'm also going to do, I think, a meter of fallout. Or fall off, excuse me. 2 meters? That's not bad. That's not bad. I'm starting to see your ways, Sticky. You have some interesting approaches, which I think I might study. Okay. Now, I'm going to use the ground merging for now, kind of just get an idea of what's going on. I might not keep the ground merging, especially as I add more layers to this, because those layers are going to sort of educate me and paint a picture for anybody flying into this airport of what it should look like. So, asphalt generic 3 should work unless we go with generic 2, which seems to have a kind of sideways pattern, which I don't like. So, I'm going to go with generic 3 unless I go with generic. Which one do I want? Which one do I want? That one's kind of nice. Generic 3 kind of paints a different picture. I think I'm going to go with generic 3. And we will take coloration. And we will paint it slightly wider. Not that much. And let's just do 2 left, 4 right, runway. And we're going to stick this in the runway aprons section, and we're going to make this a priority of 1 because it's not getting in the way of that. And then we're going to paint all the surfaces. And now you should be able to see how this works. And now you can kind of tell the picture that we're painting here. And apron layer 1. I'd probably say we'll call this master surface layer. And the runway isn't that far off, but I may need to change the opacity somewhat, or go with a different material, or get rid of ground merging, which I think I will do for the sake of telling the story. And then let's see what this looks like without everything. That's actually not that bad. Sometimes less than a meter. Got it. Thank you, my friend. So I think I'll do 1 meter for now, because I think that might not make much of a difference, but I'll keep my eye on that as I keep going. All right. So, what do I do next? Next thing I do is I hide that layer because I want to create a new layer for the effects of the touchdown zone. And I think that's a sticker you can literally put on. So, ground, paint, runway, I think it's decals. So, decals, asphalt patch, crack, grunge, tire tracks. So, what I might do is I might actually create this kind of rectangular section right here first as an apron, and then we're going to experiment with that. All right. So, let's do this. I'm going to start by taking the body, the major section here where things are more or less uniform, and then we're going to extend it to about both sides, right around here, I'd say, right where it really becomes solid. And again, the point for me is not to get this down perfectly. The point for me is to figure out if I can emulate the effect. So, that's good enough for me. And we're going to go to materials and we're going to add tire tracks. All right, now, let's see. There's two versions of tire tracks. All right. Now, considering this is a fairly well-used airport, we're going to rotate the tire tracks. And we're going to offset the tire tracks slightly. And then we're going to rotate it one more time. This is a little tricky. But I'm starting to sense a real sense of this actually working. About 320. Can I not put a number down? No, that sucks. I can't actually put a number down. It would have been really easy to do it that way. But we all got to start from some point of knowledge, right? So I'm not going to worry. All right, let's tile this. Let me change that. At some point I was at 322. There we go. That's good. Okay, Sticky Rice, thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate you, my friend. Have a great rest of your day. And until next time, my friend, God bless you. And we'll see ya. Okay, so I think now that I've got this set, I should be able to play around with the offset. And because this is going to be a fairly wide swath of a texture, I'm going to probably tile it up some more. Now we'll do 5 meters fall off. Does that even let me do that? I don't think so, because I think this is a decal, which kind of sucks, to be honest. Also, it's not a perfect placement. But this actually, wait, maybe I actually can do that. No. At least not for that. Yeah, 322 may be about as good as it gets. So, let's do this. Let me increase the effect while also getting rid of the one-click placing since I don't need that. And then we'll move this piece all the way out to here, which is technically where the kind of landing skid marks should technically end, and bump that out to about here. I mean, this is for the folks that really kind of want to nail it down. You don't have to, but it does look like I might have discovered the necessary offset or angle required to do this. I'm going to try to change this to 26 meters. Okay, doesn't seem to work that well. Okay, now, if I make the apron priority 2 and I draw the runway, then I have a nice big fat runway smear. The problem seems to be the fall off doesn't behave the way I want it to. So, what does that mean? What do I have to do? I probably have to do one of two things. I'm either going to need to change the behavior of the apron so that we go from 26 to 56 to say 28, and then adjust the offset. Maybe make the offset 30. That's actually more realistic. Now, the offset's more realistic, but will I ever actually be able to get that above the white lines? No. And I think there's a very, very, very plausible reason this never has to be above those lines. Probably because those lines get repainted on a regular basis. So, I'm not going to think about that too much. And also, I may have figured out a way to go beyond the border. See how that works now? I've added fall off of 20 meters on either side, and what looks to have happened is that it's also gone slightly outside the bounds of the box, which was more or less what I was trying to make happen to begin with, but I didn't know how, which is great. All right, we're kind of learning together, chat. This is cool. So, there is just the teensiest difference in terms of offset. It's almost like I need to be at 142 or better. 143 is different, no doubt. But 141 is almost so perfect, except for the obvious difference that we can either defeat that by tiling it to 31 meters, or we can really finagle this at some point, which I'm not going to worry about too much. Because, kind of like in real life, there's a lot of people that do not land perfectly. So, what do I do? Can we do 35? Probably. Can we do 45? Probably. Okay, and now we've gone from this kind of like smear situation to a proper blob. But the problem with 142 is that it's very easy to tell that it is not on the right path. And 141 is probably about as close as we're going to get to a perfect layout. So, if we tile it enough, then theoretically we should be able to get the landing runway smear to look good. And honestly, that may be about as good as it's going to get. At least for a first layer. So, we're going to call this 22 left. I'm going to call this one 22 left landing tire marks. Okay, now, if I hide that, and if I hide the runway texture, then we kind of see where those marks go. And if I draw those landing tire marks again, they're good, but they're also just like taking up all the surface. So 200, no. 20, yes. 2, no. Let's cut that in half and then bring that in. But I tell you what, it does look like the tire marks have kind of painted the runway a lot darker in that spot. Not just because of the tire marks, but because of the fact that there's so much landing that takes place here. If we go between 24 and 48, we go with 36. So if we move this back into place, then you can still see the marks, but you can also see that kind of something happened here. So I might have to change the priority of the tire marks to 3 and then add a section underneath that that says it's a darker texture here because the runway is bright. And I don't know if it should be that bright. And if I didn't know any better, I'd almost say the center of this runway in spots is brighter. Which is sometimes why even something as simple as ground merging is a nice way to paint a different story. But now the ground merging is looking different because I've expanded the amount of room this this dirt is extending. But I want 20 because I want to extend that out. So I kind of spaced myself out of room for this. So what that means is I'm probably going to want to make the runway texture just a good 2 shades darker, and then make a center portion of the runway that's actually lighter. And then we'll do the same thing with the section up top on the bottom, and we will tweak the values to make it work. Okay, so 2 left landing tire marks, and I'm going to add one more layer to this side, which is hopefully going to prove the point. So, but that would make sense, wouldn't it? You would have the overwhelming majority of touchdown marks in that zone. Texture rotation, opacity. All right, do me a favor. Let's see what we do. Let's see if we can actually. Actually, I kind of like this because it's telling the story of how those runway markings had to be repainted, which is cool. So if I make the opacity of this a little bit blank, maybe I won't need to. Maybe there's just going to be just enough bleed through for me to actually get everything the way I want it to. Theoretically, I could mess with opacity numbers a little bit more. I almost like this because it gives the runway more character. And that's without using ground merging. So I kind of like this actually. The good thing about working with the runway textures is that you can always come back and work on them some more. So if it starts to get in your way like it's kind of getting in mine, then the point is clear. You can just kind of set that aside and then come back to it again. So we're going to duplicate this for the bottom portion just so we don't have to create this from scratch. And we're going to move this down here. Okay, so assuming the touchdown zone is going to be pretty similar, then we can take the copy which we've created, put it in place right around here, I'd say. And then we can tweak and determine where it is that those sections actually started and ended. We can hide the surface so it's easier for us to just tweak this to our desired effect. And that's actually not that bad. In fact, that's kind of really close. It's hard to tell. All right, there we go. Okay. That's good enough. Let's get the surface drawn. And we will offset the texture. Excuse me. Offset the texture this way. And now we have touchdown markings on both sides. And I can more effectively tweak it this way because now I can see them more clearly. And now we have marked the touchdown zone with an assortment of tire markings. And there you have it. And now I can turn this and say 4 right landing tire marks. So now both sides of the runway have their touchdown markings bled through. And again, it's entirely possible I'm not doing this any justice whatsoever, but it's a learning experience for me. And let's take everything in stride. And now we have a runway with coloration that's off in spots, but now you have kind of like darker edging. You have touchdown skid marks, and what does that look like again in real life? Let me take a look at the runway. The runway and the master surface layer have to go away. But yeah, I mean, people have touched down in other spots, to be sure, but I don't think I'm going to stress that out too much. I almost feel like I want this to be a darker shade of asphalt, but we're going to leave it alone for now. Especially if I can just kind of like either mess with the opacity a bit more. So we'll make it half here and make the surface layer a little bit more bled out. What was that before? Okay, it was 166 before. So if it was 166 before, yeah, it's actually a pretty good level. Okay. So that's not too bad. Just a few more sections, and I think we'll be done building this runway texturing for this stream. And then I'll probably work on texturing the other runways and possibly the other taxiways in upcoming streams so that we'll be able to do things like get those lines put into place where they need to go. But this is not bad so far. We've got the threshold, we can build a blast pad and maybe even the 3D objects which are going to be used for the overrun section. But I'm going to just focus on this last piece here, and then I'll probably call it a stream. Okay, so one more apron. We're going to create this area here. And before I do that, actually, I want to make sure everything's hidden, because I want to be able to see what I'm actually rendering. There we are. And this is going to be like the top portion. Okay. Excuse me? What was that about? Weird. Okay. Let's try it again. This should work now. So now I can take all this, and now I can stop. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually say, probably call this for right initial asphalt. Okay, so now as I bring in the other pieces, it's apparent that the initial asphalt needs to either have a interesting. What was the priority I gave this piece? Not you. I gave you a priority of 0. Okay, so in lieu of an increased priority, the last thing to have been rendered is what's going to get the priority over it, which is why this piece needs to have priority of 1. Okay, that's interesting. All right, so let's see. What do I want? The primary threshold had asphalt generic 3 cracked, so we're going to use that here. Asphalt generic 3 cracked. And what did it have for threshold? Opacity 225, and the color was 118, 118, 118. What's up? All right. Just got back. Mrs. Digi was asking me something real quick. All right, so let's go ahead and change the colors. This is probably going to be close enough for opacity. And I think 116 is pretty good here. Okay, so there you go. I mean, I can probably change the coloration of the asphalt just so it's easier. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to check the tiling. So this needs to be 13 as well. 13 as well, with probably a meter of fall off, as opposed to the primary threshold's 5 meters. Let's do this as 2.5. That might actually be better for that portion. But there we go. And did that one have ground merging? It did not. So if I get rid of ground merging here, what happens? Let's actually take the opacity down a few notches. Let's make it 160. And there you go. Okay. Interesting approach. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with this kind of style of texturing, but it's produced some very interesting fruit so far. So it actually looks like all of the surfaces are actually being drawn, and there we go. I don't know. Was there a border on the end of this runway? I thought there was. Markings, threshold, extra pavement. I'm not sure. Pavements, approach starts, primary threshold. Hold on. No. I'm pretty sure it's, pretty sure it's... Actually, that's weird. Okay, so those are edge markings. Those are threshold markings. What about, wasn't there like a horizontal layer? Don't know. Alright, not worried about that too much. And we have all of the layers for the runway right now. I think the only thing I don't like about this runway right now is the bleed through is a teensy bit excessive. But at the same time, I almost feel like if we keep some of the bleed through, like the teensiest bit, then we're gonna see kind of like where the old markings were and maybe what got done to correct the situation. And how we have newer markings. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do much about these markings unless I go from 162 opacity to literally 255. And even then, all those markings won't go away. But if I keep it right around 228, 225, we'll still get a teensy bit of bleed through while also preserving a little bit of, say, the old mystery of the runway layout. I could probably add random smudges as an overall layer here. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of curious about trying that before I wrap up for tonight. So I'm going to do one more thing. I thought I was done with the runway, but I'm going to do one more thing. We're going to add one last overall layer to, I would probably say, the majority of the visible space. And we're going to do this for one reason only. I'm only doing this to see if I can add a little bit of the missing grime that would really make this pop as a well-used runway, as I presume runway 22 left is. Because I think that's the one that either has the RNAV or the ILS approach. So, let's hit it. There we go. Well, I'm still here, Kev, and welcome aboard. Also, I'm the knucklehead that doesn't post when he's going on stream, so... DIGI! But, I might actually announce that on my Discord and make it such that I will hopefully start becoming consistent again, because that would make me happy. So, Asobo decals, can I get like dirt? And does it matter? Oh, excuse me. Dirt. And how does the dirt work? Texture tiling, texture offset. I don't see much. I really don't see much. I don't need no stinking Discord. Roger that, my friend. Okay, for some reason, this ain't working. Texture rotation. Rotation ain't showing me a thing. So, let's do this. Let's see, orange, black, chevron. No. Decals, please. Thank you. Decal dirt, decal crack, decal asphalt patch. What? I'm sorry, what? Oh, well, you know what? It would probably help if I added the correct layer of, priority. Like, Digi, you can always try to do better. Layer order, that's right. Layer order is important, my friend. Okay, so back to the material editor, and we are going to mess around with decals for fun and maybe for profit. Okay, so now we're starting to get into something interesting here. Now we have decals for the runway, but this this kind of looks like an airplane came by and shook off a whole bunch of dust or dropped a whole bunch of uh, you know, baking flour as it went. So no, we're not going to go with this. Although it is cool. There's, let's see, Dirt 1, Dirt 2, which is appealing, Ground 1, and Grunge 1. Ooh. Okay. Now, Grunge 1 is the same pattern applied again and again. So I don't think we're going to want that one. Give me a moment to find something. Steward. What's Steward? Ooh, Steward is really just something else. Patch 1. Patch 2. Okay, so we don't want that. Ground 1, no. Dirt 1, no. Asphalt patch. Asphalt patch, strangely enough, kind of looks cool, but it's repeated, so not really. I want to expand this a bit more because I want to see where this material is coming from. This one actually seems nice to me. That one doesn't. That one also doesn't. So, decals 3 it is. So all I need to do now is adjust the placement of the tiling. All right. Okay, so that was 231. 90 would be 141. So 141 should technically be up and down, which was pretty much what we were using before. And if I tile it in such a way that it is consuming pretty much of the runway, then we're going to have a dirty runway up and down. I don't necessarily know if I want the entire runway surface to be dirty, though. So what I might have to do is kind of use the runway markers to help me cheat a bit, and then add like 10 meters of fall off. Or 5 meters, or 2 meters. But let's see what happens. First thing I'm going to do is move the dots over this way. And let's experiment with the fallout so far. I want most of the dirt to be in the well-traveled sections of the runway. Not absolutely everywhere, but certainly not in every single nook and cranny. If the goal is to make this look realistic, then keep the dirt where it should be and not where it shouldn't. Nice. Okay, did I get rid of it? I feel like I did. We're over here. Come on in. That's my cat. Also wondering why I'm not tucking them into bed yet. Almost. So we'll do 0.5 meters, or just make it 1 meter. And now we're going to take this and we're going to apply similar reasoning. I mean, at this point, it's kind of like, you know, it's not going to be perfect, and that's kind of the point. I would almost argue you want to place the textures as roughly as possible, because then you can play with the slightly off angles to demonstrate the dirt as it should be. Runway dirt. Okay, so now if I deselect everything, we have a runway with a good chunk of dirt on it. And I think I'm going to take the dirt as far back as, say, here. So it's easier and more convincing that this runway is actually being used for actual aircraft. Yes, actually. Some of these markings don't look like they should actually be here at all, but it's kind of like I've created my own version of ground merging for the runway itself. And I feel like it's maybe a bit over the top, but it's almost like it's a lot better than what's typically going to happen on a runway that you might see at a default airport, where there's no it's a runway. Yeah, it serves its purpose, but it's like it doesn't have character. You can't tell that a lot of traffic has come through here, because you know it doesn't look like it's got, you know, it doesn't have any grease stains, it doesn't have any dirt stains, it doesn't have anything like to say that somebody tried to stop and their brakes failed or something like that. So I guess that's what I'm trying to achieve. That's the effect I want. So there we go. On tonight's broadcast, we covered layering and adding additional aprons to the textures at this particular runway, which was 2 left and 4 right. I think I'm going to make the textures be a bit more opaque out here, and now you can kind of tell that yes, they do maintain this runway, and yes, it is used heavily. And yes, for some strange reason, it's quite dirty. But what I can probably also do is control the dirt layer and maybe not make that as opaque. I might make it way more transparent. But when you're coming into land and you're going to touch down on 2 left, it's not all going to be clean. And even if I get rid of ground merging, it's still going to look like somebody was like landing or doing something here. So if I make the dirt not as opaque, but definitely not transparent, then I think right around 170 should do it. And when you touch down, you're going to see the touchdown decals. Now, my graphics settings for the sim are going to look different than yours. And let's see. Why are these slightly... No, they don't need to be that much. What about 48? I just feel like 48 feels better to me. Yeah, it looks like in an instance like this, having a slightly oversized touchdown marks and having a slightly oversized zone seems to produce this effect where there's a more believable amount of traffic that comes into here. I wish that I was able to absolutely positively nail the angle by which this decal comes in, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to be the case. I can keep making it bigger, but it's like it's not quite there yet. And 142 is way off the mark. .141 is probably going to be as close as it ever gets to being perfect. And there's going to be a teensy bit of imperfection, which is probably just as good because, again, you're, like, you never land perfectly all the time. So you're gonna have your main gear and your support gear touch down in different spots. Do I want this to be even wider than this? Potentially? Actually, I think I'm gonna go for it. And then we will offset this again. Actually, I do wonder if making it 60 is actually going to make more sense. Because if it's 60, then we're going to have a great deal of planes to come through here. .60 with a 40-meter fallout means you're going to have marks kind of like all over the place, either side of the main slab. Yes, actually, it looks really good. Okay, so I think we're going to touch that up that way, make the texture styling 60 meters, and then pop that into place. And with a 30-meter fall off, we have pretty much the same effects that you would have if you went, say, almost totally transparent, except that now we have textures on top, which means that we're not going to have an issue with this thing being overly pixelated unless you're running on my machine, which sacrifices visual fidelity for the sake of frame rate and smoothness. I might have to mess around with presets again just to make this run the way that I want it to, but at the same time, this runway has character, it has dirt, it has layers, and I'm hoping to apply very similar effects to the rest of the landscape so that all the runways have really been lived in. But I'd say for tonight, at least for the main runway surface for 22 right, I'm sorry, 4 right and 22 left, this looks pretty good. Again, expect a picture and a blog post to the flightsim.co page for my profile. If you are if the scenery development kit for 2024 is better than this, and I hope it is, then it's probably going to be really good. Now, Kev, in case you missed it, I have a profile on flightsim.to, and I am posting pictures and progress of it there. If anyone would like to follow me there and support me as well there, I would appreciate it. You're never required to do so. If all you do is leave me a like and a comment, that is wonderful. However, I am experimenting with this as a future potential source of income as well, and I do like crafting things like this, if for no other reason than to say this, these runways have stories. This airport has stories, all this stuff going on has stories. So to be able to recreate the experience so that other people can get back to flying out of this airport the way they're accustomed to is a story in and of itself. And it's a mission that I will gladly take on. And hey, if it's a mission that I can take on without so much as having to ever charge anybody a penny for anything that I do, then that might not be a bad way to be. But at the same time, if you do appreciate the work, any kind of support you can provide, whether it's comments, likes, monetary donations, always appreciated, and it will go towards the work of making this better. In the meantime, folks, look for my next vlog post on flightsim.to, and I will also probably try to keep you guys aware of my situation on Discord. Hopefully things are on the mend with regards to not only my wife's health, but also figuring out what I want to do with my time. I will save scenery and build it just so we have those changes saved. And then we can move on. Give me just a moment. There we go. The console's shown up, which means that the build completed. I had 0 errors, which makes me very happy. There we go. Thank you, Kev. Really appreciate your support, and it is nice to see you here as well. Look for updates on, let's see, my Discord, flightsim.to, and again, I will try to be more consistent once again. If I do start redeveloping consistency, expect either no audio streams during the week in half an hour to hour chunks, and or expect that if I'm on Twitch at all, it'll probably be lurking in someone's stream while doing scenery development and updating my vlogs. Once I get the runways rendered, even the ones that are out of commission, then I'm going to work on the taxiways, and then once we have the ground apron textures in place, I will begin working on taxiway lines, and then once that's done, we can do things like the markers in place, the roads in place, and we can start figuring out more things like getting the building set up, which would be the first time I've worked with the terminal and the first time I've worked with jetways, and maybe even figure out how to create my own custom jetways so that when you land at my airport, you don't have to worry about the jetways not showing up. At least I'm a hopeful kind of guy. In the meantime, my friends, I'm going to start wrapping up for tonight. SG, welcome, my friend. I've been working in the MSFS SDK. I've been learning how to create blended layers or stacked layers of runway textures so that we can see things like, for example, all those runway markings you normally see, and the dirt and the grime, and just the things about runways that we typically see with payware offerings that I used to not take time plugging in myself. I want to elevate my game, and I want to do a better job of creating runways which actually look pretty good. I always want to bring my friends up too, so if you have questions about it and you ever want to get on a Discord call and just catch up, I'm down. Just let me know when. And otherwise, man, I hope you have a very good evening. I know that Peerluck's currently on a temporary hiatus due to health issues, so I'm waiting for him to get back to catch up with him and the rest of the Twitch community. But until next time, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and head out for tonight, and I appreciate your support. And like I always like to say at the end of every stream, if you want true peace, you want the Prince of Peace, and that's Jesus Christ. Take care, my friends. Enjoy. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.